honored to have another beautiful guest on. And we're going to talk about courage and leadership, one of our favorite topics, because in order to build the big visions that we have and to really create the impact that we desire in the world, because it's connected to our mission, purpose, and legacy, courage is one of those things that's really required. Um, Again, without further ado, I would like to say hi to all the new listeners that join us every week, actually, for our podcast. And I'm your host, Elona Lepari, and my mission is to help companies scale their purpose and profit so they can do more good in the world. And today I have the amazing honor to have Jeff uh, Giagnocavo here with us today. And Jeff is he does, this is his work, pretty much his life's work, and we're going to find out more about that. But Jeff, thank you so much for finding time and for sharing all the amazing wisdom that you'll be doing with us ahead of
Yeah,
time for our
yeah.
conversation.
Happy to be here. Love the format of the show. Hard hitting, to the point. Uh, Quality, not quantity. Love it.
Well, yeah, thank you so much. I think we need that. We need that. We're craving that. We're moving into consciousness. We're moving into, levels of ascension. So I think we're all tired of just like stuff that's not true anymore, which is so good because we
Right.
crave for
Right.
authenticity, and we're all craving for deep connection. And yeah, I love that we're able to have this conversation and share this with other people that it will support in connecting their own dots, because that's really what it is. At the end of the day, we're all in our own path. But in order to connect those dots for ourselves, we do need mirrors, which is other humans, because we are social creatures. So diving right into today's topic, how to lean on courage as a fearless leader. Let's kind of give people your own definition of courage. How did you connect the dots that this would be the thing that it's missing out there for people, and how do we now help people to kind of bring this out? So what are some of the problems you've been seeing with courage? So let's first define it, and then some of the challenges that you've seen
Yep.
that get in leaders ways, because we're all
Yeah.
leaders at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, I think as people, we've all done those personality assessments. We've all been told, you have these skills. How do you do that? And the answer is almost always, well, it's just natural to me. And so for me, getting right to the point, and I shared this with you in my press kit and all that other good stuff. So I'll just pause the show at the moment. Like, if discussion of about deep trauma, abuse, sexual abuse bothers you, you probably should turn the dial. I'll give you a second to do that. So for me, I like to live and say I'm a living example of courage when I go to the statement of people do things that come natural to them. I've been able to thrive and live and succeed in life despite immense trauma as a kid, from age 7 to 12, violently sexually abused. And I was able to go through all that and stand in that gap and be that person. And I feel, in a way, I was placed in that path of abuse because there were two other young men that ended up committing suicide. And I was the person to stop that trajectory, stop that path. And I have the broad shoulders to carry that burden. And so when I say, you do things as a leader, as a person, as someone in your world, in your community, and it comes natural to you, for me, that ability to live courageously is something that is natural for me, despite carrying a lot of burden that, you never forget. You never have to, you never have the opportunity to have it just go away. But I live as that example of courage. And I like to say I do that in times of ease and dis-ease, in times of challenge, in times of opportunity. I like to transfer courage to others, and that increases the light of good in this world and shines light on darkness that's out there.
Wow, I got goosebumps as you're sharing that story. And yeah, I mean, we either obviously choose our pain ahead of time when we come on this physical journey or not. I mean, that's the stuff that I'm trying to figure out on my own. But yeah, that was your pain, right? That was your pain, which is why you discovered your gift through that. And every time we go through the darkness, we come on the other side and we realize so much stuff about ourselves. And then in your case, I can like see it on my end that that was kind of how you discovered your gift, and you already always had the muscle of courage. Or is it a muscle that we can build? That would be kind of the next step that I think we want to go with, as far as my question to the conversation. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it is.
you discovered your gift, and this is exactly why we now need to help each other to really realize where these gifts are and shine light into them and bring those to the surface so that we can complementary work together in the work of healing and bring in a lot more people from the darkness into the light, because that is our right. All of us, we have our light inside of us. So
Yeah.
I guess that would be my next question. So you discovered that was a natural gift for you, but is that something that you've seen in your work that can be maybe triggered
Or activated.
or activated? That
Yeah.
that was the word. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Yes, it is. I mean, I think living as an example of courage, being courageous, being out front, being a leader, there are innate qualities that do come naturally to people, but you still have to be resilient. You still have to, like, if you want to be physically fit and lose weight and build muscle, you got to get to the gym and you got to eat less. And those are the two things that exist. And you can layer on top the P90X diet and the South Beach diet and the carnivore diet all you want, but it comes down to those two actions. And, to me, being courageous, being a leader, it is that exercise of muscle, that exercise of ability, and it's a commitment. It's a commitment to say, I am here to be in this gap, whatever that gap is, and fill it. And no, you're still going to take some arrows. You're still going to take some shots. I talk about my abuse and that you can't forget it. I equate it to like a suitcase, right? Some days you can carry that stuff around. You can take the ups and downs and the bumps, and it's like a big rucksack that's nasty and dirty, and it's got those straps that cut into your shoulders, and it's heavy. And then other days it can be like a little clutch, a little man purse that some of the guys are wearing today. It could be a fanny pack. It could be something really compact. Maybe even those like little promotional towels that have your logo on, and then you soak them in water and they expand. It could be this little itty bitty thing, and you can put it away. You can't forget it. But to me, that practice of courage is understanding it's always going to be there, but it's how you perceive it and it's how you carry it around. It's also how you swing it around. That rucksack analogy, you got that day where it's a burden and it's on your back. The one thing that's going to damage your leadership is if you start swinging that around and you're like a bull in a china shop, right? And now that's bumping into everybody else. As a leader, we have to do the opposite. We got to allow the people around us to bump into us. And we have to create that space for them, which means we got space for ourselves, because taking care of yourself is a big part of this as well. But it is that muscle, it is that exercise of, you're not going to forget. You have to be able to manage it. So I give that suitcase package exercise as maybe a helpful tool for people to think about, to say you're not going to forget it, but you can decide how you handle it today and how it affects others around you. And understand that as a leader, and you don't have to be in business to be a leader. You can lead your family, you can lead your friends, you can lead the kids you coach and youth sports, people in your church, wherever. As a leader, you have to understand there's a clash between, that person in front of you. I like to say work and home as a generic term in the business environment. And often that crashing in, butting heads, is not a judgment upon you, your leadership, the goal, the objective. It's the nonsense they got at home. It's the nonsense in their head. It's the trauma. It's the issues that they have. And it's just coming into your space where you're working at, where you're leading today. And you have to understand that that clash exists. And as a leader, you may not want it. You may be there for profit. You may be there for the goal. But so long as you got humans in your business, you got to accept
Mhm.
there's always going to be that clash that exists, and you have to be able to manage it.
Yeah, I'm smiling on that one because I love that you mentioned that sometimes when we talk about leadership, it's always related to business, because I guess this is the easiest channel to like correlate it to a company and then humans under you and working with you, and just the old concepts of the old world of traditionally how business was built. And then when we think of that, we think of religious leaders, we think of political leaders, right? But I love that you mentioned that you are a leader within your own path, right? I mean,
Mhm.
you are the one that needs to lead your own path anyway, right? Because
Right.
I mean, there could be guides, there can be support around you, but you ultimately are the one that makes your decisions and lives out your life's legacy. So yeah, I love that you mentioned that. And for wherever you are in whatever phase and stage of your journey, some people, realize their life's purpose through parenting, right? Some people realize it through health. Some people realize it through healing others. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter because we all have such a unique purpose, and we all have that leader within, and that's the point of this convo, so that we start bringing that out. What are some consequences? I love to connect the, let's call it, the spiritual world with the physical world. So, like, what are some physical consequences that you have seen maybe from the work with your clients as well? Because I'm sure that you've helped so many people at this point, and you start to see all those patterns. What are some like consequences in the physical world that you have seen are like maybe three major pain points or pain that people experience where when they don't lean into their courage to really, bring the leader within?
Yeah. I mean, I think it physically manifests to them. They're going to become likely angry because they know there's opportunity within themselves, but they're unwilling to really accept that you have to step in to this way of courageous leadership, which means you have to be vulnerable, which means you expose yourself more, which means it might hurt, right? And in my book, I have a chapter that says new cuts don't equal old scars. And, you know, like when I feel that pressure, so I guess that'd be the first one is understand you're going to take some more shots, right? The second one would be is to internalize it and say, well, this new shot isn't that thing. It's not that thing that bothered me. It's not that thing that happened to me. It's just a thing. And then the third one is really kind of like, I guess shift the physical manifestation of what happened in your past or what has happened and is bothering you now, and say this new thing isn't that. So for me, the abuse that I suffered, a lot of it happened in the basement of my abuser's home. It was late 80s, early-ish 80s, video games, gaming consoles. It was like this crafted space. It was textbook, check the box, predator stuff. I say to myself, whenever I run up against that pressure, whenever I bump into that unease, I literally will say out loud, it's not that basement.
Mm.
And so acknowledge it, right? Say out loud, okay, is this thing that actual wound and scar, or is it something new? And can I handle it? And then third, say to yourself, listen, this isn't that thing. It ain't that basement. That's my way of processing through. And I feel you take those few steps can really help you work through the issue that you have, and then say to the person in front of you, say, well, let's talk about where this is coming from. Let's talk about why this is an issue. What is it that we're not understanding? Or maybe just take a bunch of steps back and say, how's your day going? How'd your weekend go? There was a very poignant example. I coach, I coach youth sport. I always try to be very respectful and not have people connect dots in my personal life to when I go up publicly on shows like this. But, there was a very real example of a young man in our school system who I knew, and he pulled a knife the day before Thanksgiving weekend a couple years ago in school. I saw the video. Um, so I bring this up because when I say take a couple steps back with your people, imagine you're that family's employer or boss or leader, and it's Monday morning after a 4-day holiday, right? Their son has just been charged with criminal assault, weapons charges, and you have to sit on that over a holiday weekend, and now you got to come back to work. What kind of employer are you? Is that person going to come to you and say, hey, I need to talk? Or are they just going to get
Mm.
tighter and shut down? And then, start using up vacation time to go to the appointments and meet with the attorneys and be in court. You know, are you going to notice that and observe that that's a different behavior? To me, space and leadership, being courageous, being vulnerable, says you're going to take that step back and you're going to bring in the people into the goal and into their goals of the day and help them get through their day, because that clash between work and home can very much exist, and it can derail their day, and your combined goals. And so I just would ask, like in that very real scenario, who would you be as that leader for those parents in that example? And you could say it doesn't need to be that extreme. You could just have somebody whose dog passed away. You could have somebody whose grandparent passed away. Very normal things, but they can really deeply affect people. How do you handle that as a leader? What's that space you've created where you give opportunity for people to come to you? You've been going through something. I might be a little off this week. And then do you have the grace to allow that to happen and help them work through it?
Hmm. Wow. Well, I mean, all our world's biggest pains have happened and suffering have happened from, all these spaces that we haven't been able to create within ourselves and then our environments. Because to me, it's all structures and systems that we built as humans, right? We do it in
Mhm.
the company, we do it at home, we do it at work, we do it in all our social settings. So that just kind of just brought more light into it's all up to us. We can create this within companies and really aligns with my mission as well to create safe spaces because we can, oh my gosh, all the pain points that we talk about traditionally with companies and businesses of low profit, high turnover, can't attract the right talent, can't scale, staying small, all those things. If we do this fundamental work, all of that is it's like tiny details, like
Becomes a lot easier.
walls. Yeah,
Yep.
and you're like happy, fulfilled, you're purposeful, like all the things that most people that go in business want anyway, which is freedom, creativity, cash flow, like the things to just keep things moving in the right direction and just be all aligned under the same thing are just I just see it as like beautiful orchestra, like harmony if that happens. I love that you shared that, Jeff. What about fundamentals? I mean, I'm sure in your work you've worked with so many people. There are certain pillars that you probably use and see in the way that you are now able to support other leaders. What can you share on those pillars that you utilize that so that somebody else listening can be like, okay, so this is now the pain point that I might be experiencing. And here's some of the things that Jeff can do to help me heal some of that darkness so that I can get it more in light and also continue to have those results materially that most businesses want, such as profit, scalability, growth, contribution, all those things that are more high level
Yep.
visionary visionary visions, let's call them that. So what are
Yeah.
some pillars that you utilize or tools that you utilize to help people, heal the darkness and be more in their light as leaders so they can do the same for other people?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing that I work to understand about the person that I'm working with is, who are they in the modalities of owning a business, running a business, being a leader? Are they that visionary or are they that integrator type person? Because once you understand that, then we can match up. Okay, well, here's where your skill lies, and here's where it doesn't lie. And then if you've been trying to push your way through, not even knowing who you are, well, that's the first thing that needs to be, approached and worked on and identified, and then matched up with the complementing things. Like I am a high driven visionary. You get me into integrator type work, I begin to bog down. You sit me in front of a computer for a long time. That's a real problem for me because of my past. Now, some days, if I'm, really energized in the project, it's just fine. And other days, it's a real nightmare. And so we have to first understand that, like, who are you as a person? What are your skills? How do we match up and complement so we can go further together? Because no great business, no great impact was ever built in a vacuum or a silo of one. There's always people around to support and grab on to the vision and the mission and the goal and the opportunity. There's always a community around it. We got to identify your leadership so that community can complement what you want to outcome. From there, now we have to like really say where are the guideposts, where are the milestones, where are the guardrails to know we're staying on track to this goal or not. And so we look to map that out and what's that look like and put a timeline to it as best we can. And then ultimately look at like, okay, what are the indicators that says we're on track and we're going to hit this time frame, this time goal? Um, Maybe it's not money. Maybe it's connecting to people. Maybe it's raising your profile in your community. Maybe it's increasing enrollment in youth sports. All of those things, like I still talk to my friends in youth sports. I just talked to one of the coaches the other night at my son's football game, And I said, "Hey, how's it going? I hear your level's really great. How are the other levels?" He's like, the one in between's good, but the one at the bottom's really low. We got to get those numbers up. They understand that if that level, that first intro level at ages 7 and 8 struggles, that means the age group at 11 and 12 is going to struggle, because there's always fall off as kids get older and grow up in sports, right? So they clearly understand where the feeder, where the beginning exists.
Mm.
So in your goals, what I laid out there, that process, you can look at each part and say, okay, I'm on goal or I'm off goal, and then we can identify what it takes to get back on.
Well, Jeff, I think something that came up for me as you talked about the difference between visionary and integrator.
Mm-hmm.
I think ego comes at play a lot because, it's so easy to be like, okay, well, you're the visionary and I'm an integrator, I'm less than. I think ego work is really important here. You can't have one without the other.
No.
You need both. So both people are very important. I have so many integrators that without them, my vision would just stay somewhere. I don't know where it would be. Right. And that's
Yep.
not how we create impact. And then I am the integrator for some other people's visionaries because to me, that is what I do naturally as I've learned the ability to focus on systems and processes and things.
Yep.
Back to what you're saying, I think we have a natural, just like anything. And some of us are really attracted towards either one category. I see this like masculine, feminine energy. We can integrate both. That's like the hardest work I've done internally for
Yep.
myself. I think this is the same. It's what's coming up for me. Visionary integrator. We can complementary build both because there's certain projects and visions for people around me that I love to be the integrator because I
Right.
can focus on the steps that or time track and timing is really coming up for me a lot lately. So I think it's a beautiful thing to harmonize both, and that's how we in the journey then we know like, okay, at this point I'm the visionary, I need an integrator.
Yep.
You start attracting the people in your team or your personal life or your family or wherever. Obviously those things connect for you because it's all going to be individual, but I think we can do both as humans, and if there's one thing that's weaker, that's the beautiful part about spiritual inner work, that you can actually integrate both, and that's the point of this anyway, to be in alignment. And when you need both, you kind of just like do the dance, and
Mm-hmm.
you know exactly where you can be in flow and who's your integrator and who's your visionary. So I think I
Yep.
just wanted to just share that because
Yeah.
I've done
Spot on.
phenomenal work with visionary stuff, and I could see how my light has been maybe dimming other people's, and I needed to like share that there's nothing, we're not, no, nothing is better than anyone in spiritual alignment. Nothing is better than anything, it just is. And we all can, develop both sides. So I think let's pause the conversation with that for sure. I know we can keep going, but let's, just connect those three dots. I think I've kind
Sure.
of gotten to this point with my content everywhere that if we can get people to do three inspired action from each conversation, I think it's a big win because this is deep work. This is fundamental work. This is not,
Yep.
go and like, post content. That's easy stuff. Right. So this
Yep.
is like, okay, if there was like, if we both, me and you, mainly you, of course, shed a light, opened like an awareness moment, or had a opening for someone here. I mean, that's like the purpose and mission of this conversation. So let's kind of pause here, Jeff. We just started the conversation. Can you maybe share where is it that people can get in touch with your work,
Mhm.
resources I'm sure you have built along your journey and your body of work? And
Yep.
also maybe just wrap up with like connect your dots, whatever you like to share as a final message for people. And let's kind of end here for today.
Yeah. Yeah. So my website's called thebigticketlife.com. So I came up with that because in business, I've always done things that are larger sales tickets, low frequency of purchase, affords people. It's something they often aspire to. So doing a big home renovation, rewarding themselves with that really fun toy like a boat or a car. So I've always been focused in that realm of business. And my work is about helping people do life and business on their terms. So the big ticket life is what I like to call that. So thebigticketlife.com. And I'm sorry, your last thing to leave with again was?
whatever message that you like to connect for our audience, whatever's coming up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's just it. Life and business on your terms. Don't fall into the hustle and grind porn of getting up at 4 a.m. I've got friends in my network that are infinitely wealthier and more successful than me, and they get up at 7 a.m. and the first thing they do is get on Facebook. Why? Because that tells them how to serve the world today.
Whew.
Yeah. So that's life and business on his terms. And when I heard that, I'm like, wow, that's very smart. And that dovetails into exactly what I say. I've just never said it that way. So I always like to share that. So, whatever your way is of doing life and business on your terms, identify it with some of the stuff we've talked about today, the other shows that Elona has been so gracious and kind to put out for you. But identify it and then just go own it on your terms and be confident in it and know that you'll meet your goal.
Wow. Hustle porn. I like that one. I never heard of it, but it connected with me. Yeah. A lot of old toxic stuff gotta go. I love that. Thank you so
Yep.
much for the beautiful message. Thank you so much for the beautiful work you do to shine this light onto others. Thank you for coming on our show, for sharing it. I have a feeling
Thank
that
you.
we'll connect again and we'll do more beautiful things together. But again, thank you for the work that you do in the world and for being here today. And as usual, I always want to thank you for watching, sharing, and just doing all this from your heart. And yeah, help other people shine their light. You just never know who can listen to what and who connected what, right? So that was the point of this conversation as well. Thank you so much, Jeff, and thank you so much to you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.